Hey everyone, welcome to the Prophecy Roundtable. We don't have all the answers, but we're going to have a great conversation. And we have L.A. Marzulli on today, and we're going to talk about, Nephilim, aliens, and the end times. And I'm looking forward to this. It's always a delight to chat with L.A. He and I go way back. We are very much interested in Nephilim and all that stuff. And so without any further ado, LA, we're just so glad to have you on the show with us. Yeah, grab some water.
It's actually a little coffee, but yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, there's a lot of things going on. There's no question about that. Yeah, kind of what's been happening in your world? What have you been working on?
Well, the Lord redirected my steps. We were actually supposed to be filming this summer in an undisclosed location in Europe someplace. And so we were all set to go. And we were actually skiing up in Mammoth when this happened. So this is like February. And I get a little tap on the shoulder. And the Holy Spirit just speaks to me and just says, don't go. And I'm like, wait a minute. You don't understand. I immediately start arguing with him. He'll have none of that. So I keep it to myself for about 2 hours, and then my wife and I are at dinner, and it's kind of like Abraham, it's like, yeah, I'm going to leave the place where you are. I'll tell you where you're going, type of thing, because it's exactly what happened. So the moment I told her we're not going to Europe, then the Lord gave me marching orders, and he said he wants this series finished before the end of the year. So this is a 5-disc set on the UFO phenomena. We thought there was only going to be 3 films. It looks like it's going to be 4. So 6 is on the cattle mutilations. And as I said off air, that's pretty much done. It's the darkest film I've ever been involved in. Very disturbing. But we're doing pre-sales on that, and that'll be released probably, 20 days from now, 15 days from now, something like that. And then after that, we've already got the Roswell film in the can. But that's at least, we're probably 2 shows with that. We went to Roswell, we went to the debris field. And I mean, I'll just tell you guys, I mean, you're one of the first people that I'm going to spill the beans to. We found a piece of the wreckage.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely. We went to the debris field with 2 guys with metal detectors. And we were digging, the metal detector went off, and the guy that we were with, he had been out there at least 20 other times. So we knew what to look for, and he's had the metal tested. And we found this about 8 inches down. We found a very small piece of metal, about 1.5 inches long at the most, about the width of my little finger, and folded in on itself. And very difficult to break or bend. And it's still there. So it's like,
wow.
Yeah, he has about, I guess, maybe 7 pieces that he's found on a debris field.
How do you know it's alien? How do you know that it's not just metal?
All we know is this, okay? All we know is this. This is in the middle of nowhere. Whatever this thing is shouldn't be there, number 1. And certainly not buried 8 inches below the surface, number 2. But we had it tested. And the closest metal or alloy that comes to it doesn't exist till 1972. And it's an aluminum alloy, but it's not a match. It's not a total match, but it's the closest thing to it. So Roswell is 47, 72 is, a couple of decades out. And then we get this aluminum alloy, which is similar to the metal that we find on the debris field, but it's not a match. And it's not a match to anything that we know. So this, of course, jives with Jesse Marcel Sr. story, Jr. story, Linda Marcel, all the people we've interviewed over the years. But I have to tell you, Psalm 62 says, the Lord is your guardian. The Lord is the shade over your right hand. The sun will not beat down upon you by day, the moon by night. So we're out in the debris field, and it's supposed to be like 95 degrees that day, okay? And it's not. there's this cloud like right over us the entire time. There's a cloud. I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. To the north of us, it's bright sun. To the south of us, there's all these rainstorms and just crazy weather. But where we are, there's just a cloud the entire time we're there. We filmed there for about 3 hours, 3 hours, and we found 2 pieces of metal there, and Ken was our guide there. He's been out, like I said, 20 times before, and he also found 3 Army fatigue buttons that shouldn't be there either, and those buttons were issued between 1940 and 1950. They're an aluminum button. Nothing alien about that at all. But what's interesting is it kind of blows the weather balloon story right out of the window.
So I've got a question. I mean, and from what I know of your research, I think we're both under the impression that these are, aliens are demons or fallen angels masquerading as,
Yeah.
So how does an actual metal, object come into existence from the other realm or from this, from the spiritual incarnation, shall we call it? How do they do that?
Well, let's open up the can of worms. There's a book I'm working on now called Supernatural Technology in the Bible, and chapter 1 deals with the flaming sword at the Garden of Eden. So, we have the cherubim, and there's a lot of mystery there. It's only on the east gate. So the north, south, and the west gates don't need to be guarded, but we don't know why. A lot of conjecture there. We can talk about that till the second coming, and we don't know. We don't know why the other gates don't need to be guarded, but the east gate is guarded for some reason. So the cherubim are there, but then you get this thing which is flopping all over this place, which the lightsaber, the flaming sword, which turns every which way. People can disagree on that, and that's okay. In my opinion, that's divine technology. That's technology that we see in the biblical narrative, and we don't know, what it is. When you go to 2 Kings and Elisha goes, Lord opened his eyes to his servant Gehazi, and Gehazi goes out and he sees 180,000 Syrians encamped around them, and they're going to be toast in the morning. And the Lord opens his eyes. I saw the chariots of fire. So he's looking at some sort of celestial craft above the Syrian army that he has no words for. Chariot, which is what they have thousands of years ago, and a fire. So he's relating it in using the vernacular and the verbiage, which makes sense in his worldview, in his grid system. Today, I think if we were there, we'd go, aha, I know what that is. Yeah. So, and then you get Gary Stearman's encounter, and another gentleman, Pastor Matt Freeman, asked the Lord if he could see one of the good guys. So he's in a plane, and we broke the story, and we haven't released the film yet, the interview with Pastor Matt. So he's on a plane, and he's asking the Lord, can I see one of the good guys? And so he's on a plane, and he's kind of getting nervous because it's like the plane's like in a landing mode. All of a sudden, he's on the window seat. All of a sudden, in front of him and to the right, below him, this bright object appears, and then comes flying right at the plane, and literally comes right under the wing, right by the window, but under the wing. And he's like, oh my gosh. So I'll give you another one. And there's a lot of conjecture on this, and it's sort of tongue in cheek on my part. So when Joshua sees the angel, the commander of the Lord's host, and the sword is drawn, that's technology.
Okay.
Now Jesus can blink his eyes, and there's a sword. I get that. And this is where I kind of have fun with the passage. But what if? Because this, Doug, when the fallen ones come down, they teach mankind metallurgy, the bindings of metal and all this stuff.
Right.
So what if they hang a couple of signs on the on the streets of heaven? Don't ask me how this works. We're going to have a contest for the Lord's sword, and all maybe like 20 or 30 angels get together, and they're taking the alloys and making this stuff. And look, I'm not saying that's what happened. Like I said, it's tongue in cheek, and I have fun with it. I get it. Jesus can create all things like the loaves and fishes. But what if he doesn't do that? What if he goes, I want to, who can make me a really cool sword? And, these angels have been around for who knows how long. And so, and they're spiritual beings, and they're a lot smarter than we are. So maybe that's how things work. I'll give you one more. The Uman and the Thuman, the breastplate of the high priest. If that's not technology, I don't know what is. The stones light up. It's just like, how does that work? And then, of course, everything finishes. I'll tell you one story in my research. You guys are getting some good nuggets here, by the way. I haven't told this publicly yet. This is in the book. So, according to the legend, 1,000 years ago, when the Crusaders, roughly 1,000 years ago, when the Crusaders come in and take Jerusalem, a rabbi comes out and he gives this knight a papyrus box. And in the papyrus box is one of the stones from the breastplate. Okay. From the breastplate, one of the 12 stones. So fast forward to a few years ago, this pastor gets wind of this, and he's asked to come and look at the stone, along with an Israeli gemologist. So they go down and they look at they fly down to South Africa where the stone is, and there's a chain of custody that goes back centuries. The stone's handed to this person, kept in the same papyrus box. So they get there and they're whisked away in a limo. They get to the place. It's in a vault. There's armed guards in the vault. And they walk in and here's the papyrus box. Would you like to see it? Yes. Open the box. And they put it in the pastor's hand. Now the stone is just dark gray when they take it out of the box. But when it's placed in the pastor's hand, who's born again and spirit-filled, the stone lights up.
Wow.
I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, you just...
Anybody catch that on video? I'd love to see that. That'd be amazing.
You and me both. So it gets better. It gets better. And as a Hebrew scholar, Doug, you'll appreciate this. The gemologist won't touch it with her bare hands. So she's got white gloves on, and she takes it and she begins to look at the stone. And by the way, the stone goes dark with her. Okay. And she looks at it, and inside the stone, which is impossible to do, the Hebrew letter bet for Benjamin, and there's the head of a wolf. And she's just going, this is impossible. This was made this way. The stone was created this way. And how is that possible? Well, that's what God does. He's got a sense of humor, I guess. So, there's technology. So
I'm really curious
to answer your
question.
Go
ahead, Scott. Okay, sorry. So I've been thinking a lot about Satan's endgame. How do you think? And by the way, did you see the movie Eternals, the Marvel?
No,
Eternals
but I know about it. I know about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the basic thing is that aliens have been watching over mankind for all these years, and do you think that could be part of Satan's basic plan, that when God sends the two witnesses, they come as sort of the bad aliens that are coming to wreck our way of life, and Satan might be like, hey, I'm here to help. I've been watching over. And by the way, all of this, alien stuff, UFO stuff that's been happening is sort of stage setting to say, look, clearly we've been here. We've been watching over you guys. We're super duper powerful. And if you ever need anything, give us a call. I don't know. Have you kind of ever given any thought to that?
Yeah, I call that, you just outlined what I call the coming great deception. That's exactly, that is the field manual. That's exactly what, and we're being set up for it.
Right.
There's a guy, I won't mention his name. He was a Christian, but now he's trying to tell us that it's really the Anunnaki that was here. And, the God of the Old Testament is this, evil guy. And it's like, it's like all this other stuff. And it's a straw man argument with the Anunnaki. Go, well, this is older than the Bible. Well, yeah, but I get that. So when Moses and Aaron show up at Pharaoh's court, there's a full-blown occult paradigm. That's a lot older than Moses with his goofy little stick there, right? And the magicians, nobody cares, throws down the stick, it becomes a snake. We all know the story. But what's never taught in the church, there's a full-blown occult paradigm. And the magicians just go, oh, well, so what? They throw down their staffs. No one's rushing out of there going, oh, my gosh, the serpents in the Pharaoh's court. No, everybody's just kind of going, yeah, now what? What have you got now for us, Mo?
Right. Yeah.
Robinson is just, what great casting, right? The Ten Commandments. Where's the Messiah now? It's just like, it's just unbelievable. But I crack myself up when I listen to Billy Crystal do that or watch him do that. It's just great, great stick. But I go down a rabbit trail. I think I call it the coming great deception. We are being set up for it. The Christian look at the end times, because they did not believe the truth, God sends them strong delusion. So what's the truth? The truth is that in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, He was with God in the beginning. All things were made by Him, without Him was not anything that was made. That's the truth. Now we can believe that, or we can believe the fallacy of Darwinism, where over millions of years of mindless evolution, somehow the male and female and reproduction system and this whole thing. Oh, and the eye, just, we didn't get the eyes right the first couple of 100,000 of years, but we got it right.
Right, exactly.
So that's, Ellie, don't you think part of what a lot of the actual atheist scientists are now, they're actually looking at science going, well, this abiogenesis, this evolutionary theory we've been holding on to because it's all we had. I know many of them now are teaching the panspermia theory, which falls in the line with this great deception.
Yes.
I personally believe that they're going to reveal themselves as our gods, and they were the ones that created us. And we can become like them. We can become more evolved. We just have to place our faith in them. Yep. And falls into that lie, that great deception.
This is the game plan.
Yeah, Doug and I differ on the timing a little bit, but on the two witnesses, we align on that. In other words, these two witnesses are going to be preaching a repentance, a coming judgment, a repentance. No, you can't have sex with men. No, little boys are off the table. Don't cheat on your wife. Basically, a return to truth. And I believe the aliens are going to be preaching a do as thou wilt. All we need is love. Be nice to one another, but all we need is love. Like
diversity,
the Beatles gospel,
all that stuff.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, there's a little saying I say that when they show up, they will tell us this: that they created all life on this planet. They genetically manipulated early man. They jump-started the world's religions and also jump-started the world's civilizations. Now, at this critical juncture in human history, they're back to usher mankind into a golden age. That critical juncture in history, I believe, and so did the late David Flynn believed the same thing. There's going to be a nuclear event. That's going to trigger it. And Doug, I'd love to get your take on this. When Jesus cast out the demons from the man of the tombs, and they say, hey, no, you're not, don't send us to the abyss. It's not our time. Wait a minute. That phrase is so pregnant with meaning. How do they know it's not their time? What do you mean? Demons know it's not their time? What does it look like? The angel who speaks to Daniel, chapter 2, verse 43, seal up the words of this book. Men will run to and fro over the face. It's actually not chapter 2, that's the seed. But men will run to and fro over the face of the earth, knowledge will increase. How does the angel know that? Where's that information coming from? So this is conjecture. Is it possible that both the good guys and the bad guys see the timeline? They're not all knowing like God. They don't know how it's all going to come down, but they see parts of it, which is why the demons can go, nope, we're not going to the abyss. It's not our time. We'll go into the swine. And then the angel says, seal up the words, Daniel. Man will run to and fro over the face of the earth, which is where we are now. Knowledge will increase, which is where we are now. So that being said, we're being set up. We are absolutely being set up for these guys, and they are waiting. This is pure conjecture, and I can't I can't prove it, but I know this, that the UFOs, are obsessed with nuclear technology. This is why when we interviewed Robert Salas, no relation to Bill Salas, when we interviewed Robert Salas for our Watchers, we broke his story. Malmstrom Air Force Base. We broke the story in Watchers. Now it's all over, he's made the rounds, but we broke the story. And Salas was the base commander of, I think it was 9 intercontinental ballistic missiles. Well, the UFO appeared over the gate and shut all the missiles off. So this is really big in ufology, because people go, well, wow, why are they so obsessed with, nuclear bases and this type of stuff? It goes back into Roswell. Why the crash outside Roswell, 509th base, even though they had no nuclear bomb there, they were involved in it. So this is pure conjecture. And I've said this maybe on one other show. So you guys are kind of getting the breaking story, at least from what I think. And I could be dead wrong on this. It's just conjecture. But is it possible that they know that there's some sort of nuclear event on the planet which triggers their arrival?
Could it be that that Damascus will be destroyed? That's actually what I'm proposing in Regenesis Code, which I hope you enjoy. I
will get to it at some point.
Good book, great book. It's one of the best I've ever written. But so that's actually how we start the book. I'm kind of giving little spoilers here, but Damascus gets destroyed, and then the whole kit and caboodle gets going as a result of that. And we have aliens showing up over nuclear bases and, essentially shutting them down to say, hey, we're big and powerful, so make sure to listen to us. I actually think, I think the way I see this happening is that the all of this UFO and alien stuff is going to endorse the man that they raise up.
I agree.
They're going to say, hey, we're behind this guy, right?
Yep.
And they need somebody with boots on the ground,
yep.
right? We all know that they've been working on this, all of the abductions, and they're trying to create some kind of a hybrid race.
Absolutely.
This is what John Mack and David Jacobs, thank you, have been talking about for a long time. That they're trying to come up with something, because they live as some kind of a semi-materialized species, and they need something here. And I think this is where the Antichrist will come in. He's going to be the beast, right? He's going to be the guy that actually mingles, hybridizes with Satan, and then they're going to say, we're with this guy, okay? And so listen to him. This is the one that we've chosen. This is our son in whom we're well pleased, And so I think a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing is all stage setting to say, we're here, we're big, we're powerful, we don't care about anything you guys do. And what's interesting? I was listening to this interview by George Knapp, who is saying that, he was asked the question, do you think they live out, beyond our solar system? He's like, no, I think they live right here. They live right here behind some kind of a thin psychical dimensional membrane. That others call the cosmic curtain. The Bible calls it the veil, and so it seems like a lot of people are coming to this idea. In fact, where do we often find them? Under the water. I mean, I'm like, oh my goodness, right? Where do we see that in Revelation 13, right? And I was on the sand of the seashore, and up out of the water came this beast, I mean, we keep seeing all these things that are happening there as described in the Bible, and yet we're seeing these play out in the real world with, it's being documented now with the Navy at whatever, at least it's coming out. I mean,
well, the drip. In other words, and it's not so much drip anymore. The faucet is being turned on.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as the public.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. I have a friend who is active in one of the agencies who feeds me information. Nothing that's not public, but he weighs in on what this whole congressional so-called UFO disclosure. It's kabuki theater. It's a dog and phony show. I mean, they're not coming, and they never will. They're not being straight with the American people. They're not elected officials, and they're running the things behind the curtain, as it were. And we're not being told the truth. But when the whistleblower comes up and says, "Yeah, we've got craft that's not made on this world. Bob Lazar said that in the 90s.
Mhm.
I mean, I talked about it in the 90s. I interviewed Lazar. I met the guy. I've always believed Lazar's story. But it's being handled. If you look at the people who get on and talk about it, it's Luis Elizondo. Oh, wait, he's part of the government, isn't he? Wow. It's George Knapp, who's probably
Okay.
an insider too. It's Christopher
Okay.
Mellon, who's
Yep.
ex-CIA, but guess
Yep.
what? Once in the agency, you're always in the agency. Then we've
Yeah,
got our friend from over across the pond, Nick Pope. Oh, wait, he was in the English version of the CIA.
yeah.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
and then we've got Leslie Kahn. I mean, all these people are handpicked. They've been handpicked forever. And they're just constantly trotted out, the little dog and pony show.
Well, did Tucker really, really flunk out of the CIA?
Yeah, once
Tucker
in
Carlson.
he did.
I have a feeling he didn't.
It's a Republican Party. It's just maybe I should accept this so if I accept it, it'll bounce you guys out. They go, instead of LA, they go, is law there? It's just like
Law. Law.
it's just unbelievable. Not another nickel. Not another nickel. Go away.
So, what I find interesting is that, Satan does not know when the curtain's going to come up.
He doesn't. I agree. He doesn't. He's not all knowing.
Correct. But he can set the stage. And that's what I think
agree.
he's been doing.
Yeah,
I think he's
I
been
agree.
setting the stage. He's like, oh, I need to move this a little bit over here,
Yeah, over here,
over there. He's just tweaking it, because any moment the curtain can go up. God decides when the curtain goes up.
Yeah.
Right? God decides when he's going to start breaking those seals and getting this thing under going. Right. But what's interesting is the first century apocalyptists believed that the gates of Hades were going to open up at any moment, and that hordes of demons were going to come flying out, shooting their arrows. Right. So they actually thought that was going to happen in the first century. And, I think Satan, not knowing, right, he was maybe trying, maybe he was planning on that. And I think Jesus is like, no, not today. Not
exactly.
not this millennia. Not this millennia.
No. You got to wait 2 more days.
Yeah, 2 more days. Yeah, not today.
Pretty
Not
much.
today. So, you'll get there. But, obviously that is going to happen one of these days. It is going to open up, but this whole thing, Satan doesn't know.
No,
And so all he can do is just put as many props on the stage as possible to get us set up. So it's interesting. You started us off with, what you found in Roswell, New Mexico, with these actual fragments, which is quite titillating to think about, that, actual stuff has been found there. I'm with you on the technology. I mean, we don't know. Okay. So it's kind of fun to conjecture, but, God could just snap his fingers and everything happens, but he doesn't seem to do it that way. He seems to say, hey, Michael, what do you think? Gabriel, what's your big plan? When he sent the watchers to King Nebuchadnezzar, he said it's by decree of the watchers. They didn't say it's by decree of the most holy and high God.
Right.
They said, no, we're making this call. Right. And so God empowers his beings to do these different things. And, it would be, I wish we could sort of get a divine playbook on
wouldn't it be great? Oh,
that'd be really fun. God's like, actually, I decided that Michael and Gabriel and the lot get to make a lot of these decisions. And I'm going to sit back and see what they do. I mean, he knows, of course, but it's fun to think about that. And, and so when the war breaks out in heaven, Revelation chapter 12, what are your thoughts? I mean, how will that look on the ground? How will the world interpret this thing?
Well,
we know from the Bible's point of view, but what's the world going to interpret it?
I call it the Great Eviction Notice. That's what I call it. Because that's really what it is. It's like, hey, you guys, you've been slumlording here for thousands of years. You're out of here, And so he gives them the boot. And that's another thing. And it's in the book, Supernatural Technology in the Bible, even though the book is still, I think I've got 6 chapters written, and I've been working on this series. So there's only so many hours in the day, folks. And
I hear you.
I can't get to everything, although I'm trying. Angels, I believe, can be wounded. I don't think you can kill them because they're immortal beings. Can't kill them. But I think so. When Michael and his angels fight with the devil and his angels, they're not up there thumb wrestling, or having a rousing game of Parcheesi. Okay,
Right.
your turn. We're not doing that. They're fighting, and
Yes.
the dragon's army is what does that look like? Conjecture on my part, and I'm very much bothered by this scenario, this conjecture. What if that's when we see thousands of UFOs appear globally? Just boom, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game changer.
So I read this book. It was really funny. So a family member from a while ago was reading this book, Way of the Shaman. And I'm like, ooh, you should watch out. That's a bad book, right? Ooh. But I just thought I'm going to read this so I can have a conversation with this guy, right?
Right. I've done the same.
And so I read it. I think I believed it more than he did. I'm like, yeah, I think that's all quite legit, but in a bad way. And he's like, I don't believe most of it, but I'm still into shamanism. And I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, when people took ayahuasca, this one guy took ayahuasca. He has this experience, and in his vision, whatever, his near-death vision, he sees all of these stars falling from the sky, quote unquote stars, right? These quote unquote stars fall from the sky, and they come down and they tell him, we are the real masters of this world. We fled here to get away from our enemy. Right. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. So this guy comes back, he comes back from his experience. He goes and tells the local priest, and the priest says, oh yeah, they're always saying that, because, and he takes him right to Revelation, and he shows him where the stars fall and all this different stuff. And what I thought was really interesting is, this is their basic story, is that, the stars falling, at least in the book of Revelation, stars often, almost always in the book of Revelation, represent angels. Not in the entire Bible, but in the book of Revelation many times.
I agree.
Yeah. And I just wonder if we're going to kind of see sort of what it might look like, kind of, falling stars or comets or meteors or whatever the things that actually fall from the sky, that might look like something like that, and we even see this in Revelation chapter 8. I saw a great star fall from heaven to earth. I think that is actually talking about Satan, because, I saw, a star having fallen is given the key to the bottomless pit, or to the abyss. Right. So, I think that's the event that we're going to see, is what will look like a meteor shower, but in fact, it's actually, Satan and his dudes all fallen to earth. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be pretty wild when it all happens.
Yeah, the last 3.5 years of this age is going to be biblical. I mean, people are like, it'd be cool to live in Bible times. Well, if we're in that last terminal generation, it's going to be biblical, and I mean, off the chain biblical.
And I agree. I mean, when he says the days of Noah, the days of Lot, I mean, all we need to do is look around what's going on. The spirit of the age is Baphomet. Head of a goat, breast of a woman, body of a man, legs of who knows what. I mean, it's Baphomet, and we see it being pushed on a global level. Which
one out of five children now are being programmed, and with that spirit. And it's not just the programming and indoctrination. There's a spiritual component here.
Oh, too. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I live in the Santa Monica Mountains, and a mile from me is, I'm not going to say his name publicly because I won't besmirch him, but he's in some ways the poster boy for the transgender movement. And he's a mile from the house where I live.
Don't you mean they?
Huh?
Don't you mean they?
Yeah.
He's a he.
Where they live.
Come on, get your pronouns right.
Exactly. Let's get the pronouns right.
Yeah.
And I have recently battled this thing, and I realize that might sound strange, but it's happened once before. It happened when I was in Fatima, Portugal, filming, and we were filming that this was not the Virgin Mary appearing to the three kids. This was an ancient entity, and it didn't look anything like the Mary of the Bible. It never said, I'm Mary of the Bible. It said, when the children asked where you're from, it said, I'm from the sky, never heaven. I mean, when you go back and that's a 3-hour discussion. I made 2 films on this, but I'm in Porto, and we're kind of wrapping things up. Although I still have other interviews to do, other filming to do, and at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I get hit, and I get hit with something that I've never felt before. I'm trying everything in my quiver, in my arsenal of spiritual weapons to fight against. Every scripture I know, everything. I'm on the mat tapping out. I'm not getting anywhere with this thing at all. I mean, nothing. I'm saying the blood of Jesus, no effect. Nothing is happening. This is a principality. It's a whole different number than the local down the street, dime store demon.
And your local demon.
Yeah, it's not. It's a whole different deal. And I'm basically going. I'm speaking to the Lord. I'm going. I'm out of here in the morning. Get somebody else to make this goofy film. I'm not doing this. I'm gone in the morning. Holy Spirit says, trust the process. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So the next morning I get up, I'm like punch drunk. So the thing backs off. The Lord shielded me. Thing backs off. So the next morning I'm meeting with a philosopher / historian, a professor. And the cameras are rolling, and I stop the cameras, and I ask him, and I go, let me ask you something. What was here before the Christian world? Before the Greeks and the Romans came in here? What was here? Oh, the goddess Mora. I go, the goddess Mora? Oh, yeah. She appeared as a beautiful woman, would seduce the men, and then turn into a serpent and eat them. And I'm sitting there going like, oh boy, great. Thanks a lot for that. So fast forward now, that was in 2017. So now it's 2023. And I'm getting slammed last week. I mean, just like slammed. And all of a sudden what pops into my head, call on the angels. And this has never happened to me before. I mean, I'm on the mat tapping out. It's that bad. I have no power over this thing at all.
This is Mystery Babylon. I mean, this is all it is. It's Mystery Babylon.
It is.
Right. So, I mean, wow.
And I speak out loud and I say, Father, release your angels now with flaming swords to go up against this thing. This has never happened before. It was almost instantaneous. It was like, bam, and the Lord's peace just came over me, and the thing was gone. I mean, it was just like, what was that? And it's like, I get it. I mean, look, I'm nobody great, but we're the only Christian ministry that's got 5 DVDs from a biblical perspective talking about the UFO phenomena, and we've got to do probably another 4 before the end of the year. And we've got, like I said, 6 is going to be released. The enemy doesn't want this thing out. I actually call it cattle mutilations. The calling card of darkness is the subtitle. The calling card of darkness.
So let's talk about that. There's obviously there's always a reason that Satan does things, right? He's not random. So this takes time and probably some angelic effort on his part, right?
Experimentation.
Well, maybe. I don't claim to know the answer, but my thought would be blood. They're into blood. The power, the life is in the blood.
Yep.
And I think basically he needs batteries. I think the blood is his version of batteries.
Yep. And
the more charged it can be, the more innocent it can be, the better the buzz. Okay. And but cattle, I guess, are a decent stopgap. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Why is he doing it? We know that it is happening, but why?
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
This is for those of you who are watching this and aren't used to this stuff and have not traveled down this road. This is going to sound really strange, but I've been immersed in this for decades, and it's very dark. It's very ominous. It's very nefarious. Women are taken. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. You can go back and you can Google Brett Bart, Fox News. Brett Baer says that some women who are taken aboard UFOs find themselves pregnant. That's called the so-called alien abduction phenomena, where women are, and this is our fourth film in the series talks about this, where we actually have 4 people who have been taken, 2 women, and both women, the children, the babies were taken from them in the 3rd month of pregnancy. Okay. So when you take a baby that's not fully grown in the 3rd month of pregnancy, you've got to place that child somewhere so it can grow into and fully develop. The cow's blood and human blood can be used in transfusions. Cow blood, bovine blood can be used in human transfusions. That's a medical fact. In fact, they use bovine blood sometimes in theaters of war because it's more readily available.
Wow.
They also take. Let me just show you something real quick. Stay there. They also take some of the material.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my studio here.
It's all good.
At an undisclosed location.
That's right.
They also take some of the material, and I'll show you some pictures. So this is what it looks like.
Wow.
That's where the ear was. The sex organs are cored out. Like I said, it's the darkest film I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
The anus and udders and sex organs are cored out.
Yeah. Yeah, people need to understand they're not just killing cows. They're doing something very surgical.
And the first thing that happens is the blood is drained from the animal.
Mm-hmm.
Take all the blood. So and I show this in the film because I excuse me, I'm talking to the rancher who's lost 16 cows. I'm talking to a woman who's been immersed in the cattle mutilation of Snippy the horse, which is sort of ground zero. And I propose a theory that is it possible that they are creating artificial wombs? And they said, yes, I can see how they would do that. So in my opinion, and this is also based on the experiencers who were taken aboard the ships and see the glass jars, whatever they're made of, with the fetuses in there in different forms of development. They've seen it. We've heard too many reports of that. So while that sounds completely bizarre, and I show it in the film, what was it, a month ago, they were talking about artificial wombs, harvesting babies in artificial wombs. So we're already playing around with it. Well, the dragon, I remember asking Chuck Musser this decades ago. The dragon's outnumbered 2-1. He's creating an army. So the blood, and I agree with you, they feast off the blood, but the blood is also used in some sort of an artificial womb with this hybrid entity, which is soulless, in my opinion, and looks more alien than human. At least the early ones did. But now they can pass. Now they can pass, fully pass. And here's something else. I just heard this today. A friend of mine was traveling to Los Angeles, and he knew the pilot. He's also a pilot himself, so he's on the airlines and he's talking to the pilot up in the cockpit because they know each other. And one thing leads to another, and the pilot says, "Yeah, I got to tell you something. This whole thing with these reptilians coming aboard the plane," he says, "we keep seeing these hooded figures, these men wearing a hoodie with dark sunglasses. They never say anything, and we've seen them now for a couple of months. They're traveling on the planes, and we're not sure what they are. They never say anything and never take the glasses off."
So maybe the Vogue model wasn't so crazy. You know what I'm talking about.
I've seen the video with her. Whatever she saw completely freaked her out. She's not drunk. She's freaked. She's terrified, in my opinion. She's absolutely terrified by what she sees. So people laugh at it, as people do. But here, I'll give you one more story. We have a show called Supernatural Confrontations. And this guy, he's in a pickup truck. His coworker's next to him in the passenger seat. So they go to a fast food restaurant, and they place their order at window 1. We all know how this works. They go up to window 2. They pay, and they're waiting for their food. So the food comes out. Bag number 1. The guy reaches up, takes the bag, and hands it over to his coworker in the passenger seat. Looks over again, reaches up to get the bag. There's the same woman, but her face has shapeshifted. So half the face is human, the other half is completely alien with iridescent-like skin. She realizes that she's been outed. She covers her face and runs away from the window. And the coworker inside the fast food restaurant goes like this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that? I mean, I don't get a lot of those, but I'm a student of body language. The witness who saw it's telling me the truth. He's got nothing to gain by this. I'm not paying him $500 to tell a story. He's coming on and telling a story. So they're here, Dr. David Jacobs' last book, walking amongst us. They are walking amongst us, in my opinion.
What would be the biblical equivalent of them walking amongst us?
Nephilim.
Well, yeah. I mean, but in the end times perspective, where might we find that in Revelation, Isaiah, Daniel? I don't know, maybe Daniel 2:43.
Yeah, Daniel 2:43 would be my proof text, sort of. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. So who are they? So,
right.
And that's exactly what we're seeing now. We're seeing the mingling of the seed, but there's no marriage contract.
Yeah, were you teaching this, LA, back? I guess you've been doing it even back when Missler was one of the original evangelicals that was starting to teach this and was way ahead of his time.
Way ahead. Chuck was a mentor to me on some level, but I also received the gold medallion from Chuck for our work on the Nephilim and everything else that we did. We interviewed Chuck. He appears in several of our Watchers films. So, I miss him. He was.
I really do appreciate his teachings, and I'm thankful they're still up. They're still up on the internet. He's really got a cool one about what happened at the time of Hezekiah as well, as far as when time changed and how it might have happened.
Amazing, right?
How it might have happened with a planet coming in and everybody would have freaked out.
Right.
And so that,
or Abraham and Sarah regressing. The Lord regresses their ages because Pharaoh's not going to hook up with a 90-year-old babe.
Yeah, there was something supernatural going on there.
Yeah, something else going on. They're regenerated. I mean, we look at this stuff. We look at the Bibles. It's all supernatural except for the genealogies, and even that, in some ways, are supernatural. And yet we don't believe it. We look, and we have this form of religion with its power. But I think Chuck would be blown away had he lived to see just how far we've taken the whole UFO thing. Because number 4 in the series is on abductions. The first 3 films in the series deals with the reality of UFOs and what this is, and disclosure. Number 2 in the series, I sit down with two major researchers, Francisco Carrera, who is the head of Exopolitics Portugal, and he has a different paradigm than we do, and same thing with Preston Dennett. He's an author, a very prolific author, written numerous books on the Roswell and the crash in Topanga Canyon, UFOs over Topanga Canyon, and his latest book is on with an experiencer, Dolly, who learns to drive the ships. She's been taken from a very young age. Well, we're publishing a book by this woman's named Karen Wilkinson. She appears in episode 4 of our UFO disclosure series. She's the woman that was taken numerous times and impregnated by them 3 different times. Like Dolly, she had a handler. Like Dolly, she was raped by them numerous times. But like Dolly, she also flew the ship. She was taught to fly the ship. And so this is groundbreaking news because, we know that they're doing it, but she came to Jesus, and that's when things changed. Where Dolly is, in my opinion, she's got the Stockholm syndrome on steroids, where she, she's sided with her captors and believes that they are somehow benevolent. So, you're taking people in the middle of a night against their will, and that's benevolent. You're implanting a 5-year-old boy, Emil, which is, again, he's in our Watchers series, but later on he appears in episode 4 of our UFO series. And Emil Jurek has been taken by them since he was 5-6 years old, just like Karen. And he goes, they used to lock me in my room at night, locks on the doors and on the windows because they were afraid I was going to drown in the pool. They find me outside the next morning. Locks are still on the doors. And he looks at the camera and goes, explain that to me. So, there's a nefarious agenda here. It's Daniel chapter 2, verse 43 on steroids. If these aren't the last days, I'll shave what little hair I have left on my head and become a Buddhist. But this is it, guys.
It's probably just a coincidence that, UN Agenda 2030, transhumanism, alien disclosures, and it just happened to be about 2 days since Yeshua returned to his place. Total coincidences.
Total coincidence, right?
Doug will get on to me. He sometimes thinks I'm maybe a little too dogmatic, and I never teach or preach or say, sell everything, go to the top of the mountain.
No, of course not.
Yeah. But if, he admonished the Pharisees at the time and the religious leaders, you can look around and how are you not seeing what my word said would happen at this time? In other words, he was pretty upset at them.
Very much so.
For missing the signs, missing
and they had this, and I know you guys know this. They had the signs. All they needed to do was count from when the decree from Cyrus goes out till Messiah comes. It's all they have to do. And there he comes walking in right on the day, the appointed day. He dresses himself. He's on the donkey. He's arranging the whole thing. This is it. Just count the days. Count the days from a decree to rebuild the temple. And here I am. And they miss it because they did not know the day of your visitation. Come on, guys. How much more us? We've got everything at our fingertips. If this, like I said, we are down. You can't fix this anymore. 20 years ago, I would say, well, we can fix this. You can't fix it. You can't. It's over. We are the freight train is on steroids and the conductor is dead. So we're flying down the tracks.
My buddy Curtis Reed, that he's got a channel, Donkey Speaks. He's like me. He's not saying, look, guys, I'm not predicting a date, but the plane is coming in for a landing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of whether it's another 5 years, whether not 10 years. It could be longer. I'm not going to retire and go sit on top of a mountain and do nothing. I think
we're called to keep our hand on the plow. Yeah, I'm working harder now than I've ever worked in my whole life. For crying, I'm 72 years old. I'll be 73 in December. It's like retirement next. What's that? There is none when you work with the Lord. But no, this is it. Seriously.
So thinking of coming in for a landing, what's the basic scenario? The abomination and desolation, the Antichrist or beast. How would all that fit in with the UFOs, in your opinion?
Well, it's interesting that the Raelians talk about this. Rael was Claude Vorlehorn, or however you pronounce his name, the race car driver. And I interviewed one of the rabbis, his head rabbi for the Raelians. And it was a very interesting interview. You can watch that on L.A. Marzulli on YouTube. By the way, I think we're like a couple of hundred short of 200,000 subscribers, which is pretty amazing. But the Raelians have been saying that when the ship comes, that Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and Krishna will all come walking out of the UFO. So that's certainly which of course is a ruse. That's not the real Jesus. Right. But and that certainly is a very viable scenario. I could see it coming down just exactly like they're saying. I've talked to abductees who have been shown, holographic films of the crucifixion How is that possible? So we're in the high strangeness here. We really are. And it's, even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Men think for fear was coming upon the earth. Satan comes with all signs and lying wonders. This is all stops out, man. This is unlike anything we've ever seen.
Our friend Brad Myers says Revelation
Brad.
16. Yeah, there are three. Hey, Brad. There are three frog-like demonic beings that do signs and gathered the rulers and their armies to battle against the Lord. These are the demonic beings looking like ETs. Yeah, I mean, it's some pretty crazy stuff when you start putting it all together. And
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I read this book.
I want to mention something here real quick.
Yeah, please.
Brad Myers is the first guy I know that called it the coming great deception. Now, whether I got that phrase from Brad, I don't know. It's very possible. But I wrote about it in my very first book, which was published in 99. So, I was writing it in 95, 96. So there's possibility. And Doug, you and I have experienced this, where the Lord will give us, this a couple of people, the same type of a thing. But, Brad also came up with that term, the coming great deception. So hats off to Brad.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. There's a lot of great stuff. So we're just about out of time, and I know that you have to go to your next thing. Where can people find your stuff, LA?
LAMarzulli.net, LAMarzulli.net. If you haven't seen any of these folks, buy the set, buy the $5 set, invite all your friends over, pop the popcorn, and we ease you very slowly into what's going on. But when you get to number 4, that's pay dirt, big time, because now we're talking to people that have been taken and abducted, and the hybrids and what's going on. And it's in number 6, which isn't out yet, but it will be, the calling card of darkness, because that's what it is. And then, of course, 7 and 8 will be on Roswell, and number 9 will be what is the truth, where we've already interviewed Nick Pope and Nick Redford and George Norrie and Gary Stearman and Mondo Gonzalez and others. I've already interviewed them. And Doug, I'd like to get you on this, even if it's just a Zoom call where you weigh in on it, because that would be important to have you in the film too. What is the truth? What are we looking at here? Are these really friendly aliens? Is this the return of the Anunnaki? I just love that one. It's just like, it's the Anunnaki. They were here before Moses in the Bible. Well, that's a straw man argument. So what? That doesn't mean anything. So who cares? God moves when he moves, and then that's the truth.
Yeah.
But so it's LAMarzulli.net, LAMarzulli.net. Our YouTube channel is LA Marzulli, and we're hovering right around 200,000 subscribers. So I do 5 shows a week.
Wow.
About 199,000 more than I have.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, LA.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, I just want to let everybody know the paper version, the hard copy of Regenesis Code is now available. The Kindle is still coming, so hang on for that. And the audiobook is available as well, so you can start getting that. So please do. Thank you again, LA. Thank you, Scott. It was great being with you guys. And everyone, hey, the Lord's coming, so keep your eyes on him, and a lot of good things ahead. Till next time, God bless you.